top to bottom, you see water vapor streaming off the side. And then up near the black portion of the rocket, you see it venting some of that liquid oxygen. And that's just to allow that pressure relief to go there. But that rocket there is so cold, and the air around it is so humid. That's what creates that water vapor that you see coming off the Falcon 9 rocket. We're hearing from the launch director. He's talking to his crew, and so far everything's looking good. We've proceeded pretty good for this count. No major issues were worked during the count, and we're sitting at 4 minutes now and counting until launch, and weather is go, and that's a good thing. As we look at the rocket there, you can clearly see we've got a beautiful blue sky above. Yesterday we had some issues. If you followed the launch yesterday, we had 70% no-go. We got right up to 30 seconds, and they called it off because the weather constraints wouldn't allow it to go. And but wouldn't you know it, 12 minutes later, the range went green, the weather went green. So it was similar to today in that we had weather that was looking a little dicey in the early going, but then just steadily improved. All right, we're 3 minutes and 21 seconds now, and so things are starting to ramp up here in terms of the count. They're getting ready to check the thrust vector control. They're also sending up some weather balloons to make sure that the upper levels of the atmosphere are still good to go, because you can see in this shot, you see the clouds off to the right. They're still worried about thick clouds, and so they've got weather balloons going up to check that. And we're just now hearing they closed out the LOX fueling, the liquid oxygen.
We've cleared our 2 constraints we were tracking earlier today.
Let's listen in.
Acceptable for flight. Evaluation of Dragon paint on the trunk section indicates no concerns. Again, now T-minus 2 minutes, 30 seconds, and counting.
So good sign there from the launch director. In just about 60 seconds, they'll put the Falcon 9 in startup, as well as the Dragon spacecraft. And right about the same time, they'll command the flight computer for the final pre-launch checks.
Stage 2 LOX load is closed out.
Some beautiful views around the Cape as we are go for launch in terms of the weather. We're now listening for the launch director to tell us whether they are go for launch from his team. And that's going to happen in just about 45 seconds. You see there all the venting, both on the rocket and on the ground from the liquid oxygen. She's fueled up and ready to go.
Falcon 9's in startup.
Dragon is in startup.
All right, now we're listening for that go for launch.
Go for launch.
And there it is, the final seconds now. At about 18 seconds, they're going to flood the pad with water.
Minus 30 seconds.
And that's a sound suppression. Ignition is at 3 seconds. And then they let it go.
Minus 15 seconds.
And the final seconds
9,
now.
8,
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. And liftoff of the Falcon 9 rocket and the Dragon spacecraft. On the heels of the 50th anniversary of Apollo 11's return from the moon, we send more science and supplies up to the International Space Station.
Launch flight operations.
Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
Vehicle is pitching downrange.
Looking beautiful so far. Great shot from the rocket.
Power and telemetry nominal.
We're approaching max Q, maximum pressure on the rocket.
Vehicle is supersonic.
I'm going to quickly throttle back.
Vehicle is experiencing maximum aerodynamic pressure.
MVEC engine chill.
So they begin chilling the engine on the second stage to get it ready to go. Beautiful shot there, looking up the tail end of the rocket. And there's the Cape getting smaller and smaller. Approaching main engine cutoff. And you'll see separation just a little bit right after the engine's cut off. And down they go.
Eco.
There it is.
Stage separation confirmed.
And there goes the booster, which is coming back to land here at the Cape.
MVEC ignition. Stage 1 boost back startup.
And there it is. Great shot of that booster coming off as it performs the boost back burn. Well, you can see it clear as day in the sun. That's the first of 3 burns as that booster gets ready to come back down. What a great shot. And there's the second stage, proceeding into space.
Stage 1 boost back shutdown.
Both vehicles are following nominal trajectories.
See the grid fins being deployed? That's to help steer the booster back down to Earth.
Acquisition of signal Bermuda.
So you can see the little exhaust there that is steering that booster back down. And that from inside the second stage. Still got a shot of that booster coming down. Now it's vertical. That's a great shot. And it is falling fast.
Both vehicles continue to follow nominal trajectories.
So SpaceX confirming that everything's looking good for both the booster that's falling back as well as the second stage, the spacecraft that are getting ready to enter orbit. It's hard to keep a track on that booster because it is falling fast. That's a great shot, though. All right. Well, we're going to toss it over to SpaceX and let them take it from here for the landing of the first stage as well as the rest of the mission. Go ahead.
Thank you, Daryl. In order to make its way back to our landing zone, the first stage is going to execute a series of 3 burns. The first is a boost back burn, which you've seen earlier, which is meant to slow the rocket down and orient it for re-entry. Shortly after this first burn, as you saw the grid fins deployed, those are the fins located near the top of the first stage, and they're deployed to help guide the rocket during descent. Following the boost back burn, Falcon 9 executes an entry burn, which is coming up shortly. It's to slow itself down before hitting the dense part of the atmosphere. Now last is the landing burn, which happens just before touchdown, providing the booster a soft descent to land. And our 4 landing legs also deploy at this time. You just heard the call out for the stage 1 entry burn. That'll go for about 10 to 15 seconds.
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
At this point, both the boost back burn and the entry burn have been completed, so we're just waiting on that final landing burn coming up in about 10 to 15 seconds. Let's keep an eye on the screen to see if we can see those engines light. Should be coming up in about 10 seconds.
FTS is saved. Stage 1 entry transonic. Stage 1 landing burn started.
And you can hear the landing burn just started. There, you heard the call out. Watch for those landing legs to deploy coming up shortly.
Stage 2 has entered terminal guidance.
Landing legs deployed.
There you can see those landing legs deploy. And touchdown of the Falcon 9 at our landing zone 1 in Cape Canaveral. You can hear me. Congratulations to everyone here at SpaceX for another successful landing. This secondary mission is an important part of our commitment to vehicle reusability, and this marks the 44th successful first stage recovery. That's an amazing shot. Now back to our primary mission, continuing with our second stage on its way to desired orbit. The MVAC-D, or Merlin vacuum engine, that you should see on screen shortly, is preparing to power down as expected. And the second engine cutoff is coming up shortly. Let's listen in for that. At this point, there was a call up for a good orbit. Up next is deployment of Dragon from that second stage. Now when Dragon separates from the second stage, we will get the first glimpse inside its trunk. Dragon carries 2 types of cargo, unpressurized cargo in that trunk section, and pressurized cargo inside the capsule itself. At this point, we're about a few seconds or so from Dragon separation, so let's listen in for the call out on the net. That should be very soon.
Dragon separation confirmed.
Acquisition of signal, Newfoundland.
This is Dragon 2C on countdown 1. Dragon
There it is. We've confirmed successful deployment of the Dragon spacecraft. With Dragon deployed, the next major milestone will be deployment of the solar arrays as Dragon makes its way to the International Space Station. That's coming up in just about 2 minutes. Now let's pass it off to Leah Cheshire for a coverage of the solar array deploy.
Thanks, Virgil. And wow, that is so exciting to see not only a launch, but an awesome return. And also, we are looking forward to the solar array deploys, the next part of Dragon's mission. So that occurs about 12 minutes after launch. And during the launch, the International Space Station was flying about 254 statute miles over Oman. Near the Arabian Sea. So we are going to take just a moment and wait for that confirmation of the solar array deploy.
This is Dragon CC on countdown 1. Dragon's propulsion system has successfully primed, and all thrusters report ready for firing. This is Dragon CC on countdown 1. Dragon is deploying its solar arrays.
A great shot there of Dragon beginning its solar array deploy.
Expected loss of signal in Bermuda.
And obviously we've got a great view of those solar arrays, and just got the confirmation of successful deployment. So sounds like they are providing power to the Dragon over its 2-day journey to the International Space Station. Dragon will begin firing its thrusters to bring it up to the same level as the space station, which is traveling 17,500 miles an hour. And when it arrives on July 27th, it will be the 5th visiting vehicle on the space station. When it arrives, it has a few checkpoints that it'll meet. So first, it'll come upon the approach ellipsoid. That's an invisible line about 1 kilometer around the station, and that's when the joint operations begin between Mission Control and SpaceX. It'll then move on to a 250-meter hold point where a series of checks will be done on the Dragon, and then cross the 200-meter keep-out sphere. That's another invisible line around the space station. It'll move up to a 30-meter hold point. That's the final hold point for Dragon, and the crews will continue to do some checks on the vehicle to make sure it's ready for capture. It'll be about 10 to 12 meters away when Nick Hague takes the control of the Canadarm2, backed up by Christina Cook, reaches out and grapples this spacecraft. As we mentioned, he will turn those controls over to robotics controllers on the ground who will use the Canadarm2 to maneuver Dragon into a berthing position up at the Harmony module on the International Space Station. The crew will begin to access the cargo over the next month while Dragon remains attached before reloading it with supplies, science that's been conducted on the space station, and sending it back for a safe splashdown. But first, we're just looking forward to Dragon arrival, so after that successful solar array deploy, and now you know what's coming up next, you can join us for the live coverage on Saturday morning at 7:30 a.m. Central Time. With all of that, thank you, Jennifer, and back to you at Kennedy Space Center.
Thanks, Leah. Joining us now is SpaceX's Virgil Kellehessen. Virgil, can you tell us a little bit about how launch went tonight?
Be my pleasure, Jennifer. We had a beautiful launch at Space Launch Complex 40 today and also a re-landing at Landing Zone 1. This was our 7th mission to launch a flight-proven Dragon to the space station. I can confirm Dragon is in good orbit as we saw. The solar arrays deployed on time, and the GNC bay door opening should be underway shortly. Dragon is on its way to the International Space Station, on track for capture on Saturday morning at approximately 10 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. After berthing, the astronauts aboard the ISS will unload those 5,500 pounds of crew supplies and payloads. Then Dragon will return to Earth after approximately 1 month stay at the orbiting laboratory. All around, it's been a successful mission so far. And with that, I want to thank you, NASA, the Air Force, the FAA, and all of our customers for their support and hard work to ensure today's launch was a success. Back to you, Jennifer.
Thanks, Virgil. Along with all the supplies and equipment for the astronauts aboard the space station, there's also a tremendous amount of science on this mission. Here's a look at those investigations.